Okay, once again. Hello everyone, my name is Noor Ahmed. I am an intersectional youth activist. Today I'm joined by Saleh, who is the Deputy Director of the Middle Eastern and Northern African region for Amnesty International. We'll be chatting to him a little bit about the Amnesty International report that was released a few weeks ago. Saleh, there's a few recommendations that have been outlined in that report. Would you mind just talking us through those recommendations?
Sure. Perhaps to start, once we've identified that apartheid is taking place, it's being perpetrated in any context, then there is a moral responsibility for people to act against it. There is no place for apartheid in our world, and once we say there is apartheid, we must think dismantle it, basically bring it down, and all actions should go towards that. Now, apartheid is a crime defined under international law. It is where one racial group is dominating another racial group through a system of oppression and domination and perpetrating crimes to maintain that system of oppression and domination. It is a crime against humanity. And therefore there is not only moral responsibility but also legal responsibility, particularly on third states, to take action to end the situation of apartheid. And this applies to South Africa. There is a moral responsibility, and perhaps for South Africa, because there is the history and the context of South Africa. This is where the term apartheid has emerged, and then it was codified in international law. But also because it is a state, and the states all around the world, according to international law and their obligations under international law, must take action. And one of the ways to do that is to ensure that they're not rendering any aid or assistance to a system of apartheid. That means that South Africa will need to review its relationship with Israel and to see whether these relationships do contribute, aid or assist in any way in Israel's implementing of the system and a crime of apartheid. Now, another important thing is the use of universal jurisdiction. This is when states open up their judicial system to be able to prosecute war crimes and crimes against humanity, and that doesn't necessarily need to be taking place in the territory of that state, and it doesn't necessarily need to involve citizens of that state. So basically, in South Africa, the prosecution or a claim through lawyers can be brought in South African courts to prosecute Israel, particularly Israeli officials who are complicit in imposing a system of perpetrating a crime against humanity of apartheid. So this is very important. Other recommendations, they're targeted at, for example, the UN General Assembly, the UN, the international organizations and regional organizations like the UN, the AU, African Union. At the UN level, we would want states, including South Africa, to support then accountability mechanisms. So supporting, for example, the investigation by the International Criminal Court, including to include the crime of apartheid into that investigation, supporting the Commission of Inquiry set up by the Human Rights Council. But we also have a recommendation in the report to reconstitute what is called the Apartheid Committee on the back of the convention, and this is a mechanism that would have the mandate of tackling apartheid towards basically ending it, and would have both kind of the a legal mandate and a political mandate to be able to do so. And so South Africa can play a major role here.
It's really great that the report recommends sort of things that internationally we could do, but you also mentioned third state countries. So as a third state, South Africa counts as a third state country. So what do you think that we could do as South Africans to sort of increase the pressure on our government, and so steps that we could take as South Africans who obviously come from a post-apartheid state, and we have a long history of apartheid, and we know firsthand sort of the system of apartheid and all of its implications. So what do you think you recommend that us as South Africans could do to increase political pressure or just to increase solidarity with the Palestinians?
So the way to think about it is, like we said, once we say apartheid, we must think dismantle. Unfortunately, it's going to take a long time to dismantle Israel's apartheid against Palestinians. But if this is the end point, we take a step back and say dismantling is accountability, right? It will require action. And action requires, and this is the first step we're in now, recognition. And so we would want for solidarity, for people, civil society, media, academics, to just keep hammering on to ensure that this recognition of the situation for what it is, that of apartheid, Israel's apartheid against Palestinians, to be solid, there, cemented. And for that to be, for example, expressed in every statement that South Africa government issues in relation to Israel, in relation to Palestine, that it has that in there as a concern and as a call on Israel to dismantle the system of apartheid against Palestinians. There's a huge part for activists and civil society organizations and individuals, actors within civil society to ensure that the government is doing that.
Just last question, and I think while the report is really great and it has made great strides in terms of strengthening solidarity with the Palestinian people, there's obviously some limitations to it. And one of the sort of limitations, or one of the criticisms that people are talking about, is that the report doesn't mention sort of the Zionist ideology and the role that the Zionist ideology plays in formulating the system of apartheid, but also maintaining and upholding that system of apartheid. So, would you mind just addressing that?
Yeah, sure. This is something that is outside of Amnesty's mandate. Amnesty does not comment on political ideologies. It does not do so on Zionism. It also does not do so on, for example, the ideology of the Islamic State. What Amnesty focuses on is international law, and particularly international human rights law, and looks at how duty bearers, those, whether states or non-state actors, who have a duty when it comes to human rights, are fulfilling this duty, their obligations under international law. And we're not. We expose that through research, and we work on changing that through campaigns. This is why there is no commentary from Amnesty on Zionism, but also the other thing is that Amnesty cannot be doing everything. I mean, this is, Amnesty is part of what should be a global movement to end Israel's apartheid against Palestinians, and that movement can express itself differently. So you'll find a lot by Palestinian intellectuals, Palestinian academics, but also others around the world who have commentary on Zionism that should be part of the movement.
And during your discussion or the talk that we just had, you mentioned that there's a human rights course and a couple of other things you mentioned, media that's out there. So if you can maybe talk to us about that so that people know what resources are out there that they could tap into.
Absolutely. You can go basically to Amnesty South Africa, and there are a number of, for example, infographics that focus on certain aspects of the report to show kind of the discrimination in numbers. There's also a 14-minute explainer video that basically takes you from A to Z in very simple terms that are widely accessible to various audiences about Israel's apartheid against Palestinians. There's a fiction film that is coming quite soon, if not out already, where Amnesty worked with a Palestinian director to kind of bring about the experience of being dispossessed of a home. There are also other social media assets, particularly on Instagram, like a carousel about also what it means to being denied a home, and how Palestinians, as we speak, there are 150,000 Palestinians who are at risk of losing their homes because of Israel's discriminatory apartheid policies. So this is the body of kind of the things that are media and social media, but we also have a human rights education course that we developed. It's a 90-minute course that looks at apartheid under international law, apartheid in history, where also there's a comparison with South Africa and Myanmar, and also Palestinian experience under apartheid. And the course would then link you to other materials and the action that Amnesty has kind of put together as a first step towards dismantling apartheid.
Great. So as Saleh mentioned, all of these resources are available online. You can go to Amnesty South Africa's website. You can also follow Amnesty South Africa on Instagram and on Twitter, where we'll be uploading a lot of these resources and all of the infographics and a lot more information about the AI reports and also just what is happening to the Palestinians under Israel's apartheid regime. Thank you so much for chatting to us today, Saleh.
Thanks, everyone.
So that's it. Good.